Tonight, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell delivered what may be the most damning public accusation ever made by a sitting government official against a president. His statement doesn't just expose Donald Trump's criminal pressure campaign, it reveals the systematic corruption rotting at the core of this administration. Powell, a Republican appointed by Trump himself, has just done something unprecedented. He's publicly accused the president of using criminal indictment threats to manipulate monetary policy. This isn't partisan politics. This is a constitutional crisis unfolding in real time. The conflict between Trump and Powell has been simmering throughout this entire term, but tonight it exploded into public view with a video statement that has the White House in full panic mode. To understand the magnitude of what just happened, we need to examine how we got here.
About 3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Yeah, it just came out.
Our notes had it about 3.1 as well.
3.1.
3.2.
This came from us?
Yes. I don't know who does that.
You're including the Martin renovation. You just added.
That's our entire capital.
Yeah, you just added in a third building is what that is. That's a third building,
Well,
including
no,
the
but
Martin building.
it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago.
It's part of the overall work.
But it's
So,
not new.
So we're going to take a look. We're going to see what's happening, and it's got a long way. Do you expect any more additional cost overruns?
Don't expect them. We're ready for them, but we have a little bit of a reserve that we may use, but no, we don't. We expect to be finished in 2027. We're well along, as you can see.
Nice to take these off every once in a while when we're not under too much danger.
That exchange tells you everything about Trump's relationship with truth. Powell corrected him directly. The building costs Trump claimed were inflated by billions simply weren't accurate. Trump tried to manufacture a scandal about Federal Reserve spending, and Powell shut it down with facts. We rarely witness anyone in federal government contradicting Trump to his face. Most officials are either loyalists who refuse to challenge him, or they simply never get the opportunity for direct confrontation. Powell did both, and Trump has been seething ever since. Since that moment, Trump's obsession with Powell has intensified dramatically. He's made Powell his primary scapegoat for every economic failure, blaming him for the collapsing economy, for the 65,000 manufacturing jobs lost last year alone. Let's be clear, Jerome Powell didn't impose the reckless tariffs that destroyed those jobs. Trump did. But Trump needs someone to blame, and Powell became the target. Trump has repeatedly claimed the Federal Reserve is wasting billions on construction projects, spinning a false narrative that this spending is why Americans can't afford groceries or housing. It's a lie designed to distract from his own failed policies. The attacks escalated to threats of legal action against Powell, with Trump publicly discussing lawsuits for incompetence. Tonight's revelations show those threats weren't empty bluster, they were the opening moves in a criminal pressure campaign.
Because he's always too late with interest rates, except before the election he was too early, because that would have helped. That was supposed to help get her elected. It had no impact. We won all 7 swing states. But no. We're thinking about bringing a suit against Powell for incompetence. Because think of it, these aren't outstanding buildings, these are small buildings.
Trump has been telegraphing this move for nearly a year. He wants to fire Jerome Powell, an action he has no legal authority to take. Like virtually every decision Trump makes, this one would violate federal law and defy constitutional boundaries. The only reason Trump hasn't attempted it is because even his own advisors understand the catastrophic economic consequences. Removing the Federal Reserve Chair would trigger financial market chaos at a time when the economy is already struggling under Trump's mismanagement, but Trump's real motivation has nothing to do with building costs or fiscal responsibility. He wants Powell gone because the Fed chair refuses to slash interest rates to benefit Trump's billionaire allies. Lower rates would allow wealthy investors to borrow money more cheaply, inflating asset values while doing nothing for working Americans. Trump genuinely believes manipulating interest rates will make the economy appear healthy enough to salvage his presidency. He's wrong, but his stupidity has never stopped him from destructive decisions before. If anyone deserves a lawsuit for incompetence, it's Trump himself. He's running the country with the same reckless incompetence that bankrupted his casinos and turned him into a punchline in the business world, which brings us to tonight's bombshell. Trump didn't just threaten legal action, he actually did it. And Powell just called him out publicly in the most devastating way possible.
On Friday, the Department of Justice served the Federal Reserve with grand jury subpoenas, threatening a criminal indictment related to my testimony before the Senate Banking Committee last June. That testimony concerned in part a multi-year project to renovate historic Federal Reserve office buildings. I have deep respect for the rule of law and for accountability in our democracy. No one, certainly not the chair of the Federal Reserve, is above the law. But this unprecedented action should be seen in the broader context of the administration's threats and ongoing pressure. This new threat is not about my testimony last June or about the renovation of the Federal Reserve buildings. It is not about Congress's oversight role. The Fed, through testimony and other public disclosures, made every effort to keep Congress informed about the renovation project. Those are pretexts. The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation. I have served at the Federal Reserve under 4 administrations, Republicans and Democrats alike. In every case, I have carried out my duties without political fear or favor, focused solely on our mandate of price stability and maximum employment. Public service sometimes requires standing firm in the face of threats. I will continue to do the job the Senate confirmed me to do, with integrity and a commitment to serving the American people. Thank you.
Absolutely stunning. Let's break down what Powell just revealed. The Department of Justice, under Trump's control, served the Federal Reserve with grand jury subpoenas threatening criminal indictment. They're claiming Powell committed crimes related to his Senate testimony about Federal Reserve building renovations. Powell demolished that pretext immediately. He made crystal clear this has nothing to do with testimony, nothing to do with buildings, nothing to do with congressional oversight. The Fed provided complete transparency about the renovation project. This is about one thing: Trump trying to force the Federal Reserve to set interest rates based on presidential demands rather than economic evidence. Powell stated it explicitly. The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public rather than following the preferences of the president. That's a sitting Federal Reserve Chair publicly accusing the president of using criminal prosecution as a weapon to manipulate monetary policy. This is corruption at the highest level of government. Powell has served under 4 administrations, both Republican and Democratic, and never once has he faced this kind of political intimidation. He's making clear he won't be bullied, threatened, or coerced into abandoning his constitutional duties at first. I'm shocked Trump believes he can win this fight. Going to war with Jerome Powell is politically suicidal. Even Trump's own advisors like Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent have pushed back against removing Powell, understanding the economic devastation it would cause. Wall Street would react with panic. Markets would crash. The dollar would weaken. Trump's billionaire friends would lose fortunes. Yet Trump's desperation has overridden even basic self-preservation instincts. Recent development: just this week, multiple financial analysts warned that any attempt to remove or prosecute Powell could trigger the worst financial crisis since 2008, with global markets already nervous about Trump's erratic economic policies. But here's what makes tonight truly significant: this represents a turning point. Powell's public defiance signals that Trump has reached his weakest political moment yet. Think about the timeline. After January 6, Kevin McCarthy rushed to Mar-a-Lago for a photo op that revived Trump's career. Mitch McConnell had the opportunity to end Trump's political viability through impeachment conviction and refused. There are many reasons we're still dealing with Trump, including Attorney General Merrick Garland's shameful failure to act decisively. But even during those moments of maximum crisis, Trump maintained more political power over his party than he is right now. Republican senators are already looking past him. His threats are falling flat. His approval ratings are collapsing. And now, a Republican he appointed is publicly exposing his criminal behavior. Powell wants this fight precisely because he knows Trump is vulnerable. And Powell understands something crucial. When Trump has systematically destroyed public trust in facts, science, and government data reporting, independent institutions become essential. I'm not claiming the Federal Reserve is perfect. Senator Elizabeth Warren has spent hours documenting Powell's mistakes and questionable decisions. This isn't about celebrating Powell as some hero. This is about recognizing that Trump's authoritarian project requires eliminating every independent check on his power. The Fed's independence is one of the last barriers preventing complete economic manipulation for political purposes. The administration's scrambling response proves their panic. Today, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was caught smirking while discussing the killing of Renee Good by an ICE agent. Why? Because they desperately need anything to distract from their failures. They want us talking about anything except Trump's Epstein connections. Anything except the collapsing economy. Anything except the systemic corruption Powell just exposed. So they'll let right-wing media figures like Jesse Waters attack a victim because she had pronouns in her social media bio, backing the armed government agent who shot her, despite supposedly being the small government party they think manufactured outrage will distract us. It won't. Powell has made Trump's intentions undeniable. Trump needs a scapegoat for the economy he destroyed. He needs us not talking about Jeffrey Epstein. He wants to expand his authoritarian control by eliminating institutional independence. And Trump wants to perpetuate the lie about waste, fraud, and abuse in government while the actual waste happens at Pete Hegseth's Pentagon, at Kristi Noem's Department of Homeland Security, at IC, and through contracts awarded to Donald Trump Jr., who has no business managing anything more complex than a lemonade stand. Trump wants to blame Federal Reserve building costs because it serves his narrative. He wants to sue Powell for incompetence, the same Powell he appointed, then forgot he appointed, because Trump's cognitive decline is advancing rapidly. These are the distractions Trump needs. But tonight, Jerome Powell ensured we're talking about the truth instead. What happened tonight is not routine. This is not normal political conflict. This is a major inflection point. A sitting Federal Reserve Chair publicly accusing a president of criminal corruption is extraordinary, and it signals Trump's increasing weakness. It's time for others to follow Powell's example. Stop whispering behind closed doors. Republican Congressman Thomas Massie keeps saying it publicly: there will be life after Trump. There will be politics after Trump. If you're a Republican politician who cares about your career above all else, and they do, because helping people has never been their priority, you better start planning for a post-Trump world. That reality is confronting Trump tonight. His presidency is already effectively over because people are thinking past him. He's resorting to criminal tactics to maintain relevance, and it's failing spectacularly. Tonight, Jerome Powell showed us that standing up to Trump is not only possible, it's necessary. And when Trump is this weak, it's also effective.